Hello, everybody. My name is Arnold, and I'm 25 years old. And I just want to thank God for my salvation. Thank God that I'm alive, through His grace. And I am currently in the ministries of Victory Outreach, Southeast LA. And I just want to share a little bit about my testimony to you guys, just to show you, what God has done in my life. But I'm going to take it back to when I was young. I was actually born in Mexico, and I grew up, with my family. My dad was in the picture. My mom was in the picture. I have an older brother who was in the picture with me. But I was only in Mexico for like about 4 years, I want to say. I don't, and then I came over here. But I do have a little bit of memories over there. A couple like Christmases. My dad would be there. Give us gifts and stuff. But then I remember him leaving first by himself to the United States because he seen more opportunity for us, and he would send my mom money. So he was kind of out of the picture for a little bit, but then he saved up enough money for us to come over here, and we crossed over to the United States. I came here when I was like 5 years old, and uh, I moved into a city named Lomita, California. Not that far from Bellflower where I'm at right now, but my dad was in the picture for a little bit right there. We were living in an apartment with like my mom's brothers, and uh, everything was pretty fine. I had good grades in school. Until when I hit the age of 8, that's when my dad was he happened to get murdered. In I think in Hermosa Beach because of well, he committed adultery basically, and then it affected my life a lot ever since then. But he left the picture. He wasn't there no more. My mom had to, take the role of being a mom and a dad at the same time. She had to work for us. So then basically after that, we moved in with my mom's oldest brother, and his wife, my aunt. She would take care of us. She would pick us up from school because my mom would be at work all the time. And so we would kind of barely even see my mom, only in the nighttime, when she'll come back from work. And so we basically grew up with, just people babysitting us, family members babysitting us, me and my brother, my little baby sister. She was like one at the time. So, we grew up just from going like from house to house. Um, I think, when my dad passed away, I suffered from like post traumatic stress disorder. I would feel like paranoid for no reason. I would feel like scared to talk to anybody. We moved out of that city in Lomita. We went to Bellflower, and that's where my grandma was at. My mom's mom. And so she took us under the wing. She would take care of us every day. She would pick us up from school. And I think ever since my dad passed away, though, my grades kind of like went off balance. I stopped like caring about school. I started just wanting to do whatever I want. But I've always been like a shy person. I wouldn't really like tell people my problems like in school or anything. I wouldn't share to anybody what I'd be going through. But in reality, I'd be going through a lot of things. I'd be thinking about my dad a lot. Why he leave? Why did he do that to my mom? Because my dad was a great person. He always took care of us. He was always there for us every weekend. He had like a specific thing for us, like to take us out. To the park or wherever it was shopping. But the weekends was always like for us, for his kids. So I always question like why would he do that to us? But so I kind of in a way grew up with like a little anger towards my dad, even though my dad was good with with us. I had a little resentment towards him, and so I started eventually just doing a lot of bad things in school. I was getting into fights in school. I remember most of my fights in elementary school was because like somebody would like disrespect my mom, and that would get under my skin, and I would end up just I'll be the one losing because I would be the one that react, and get in trouble, get suspended, and then eventually, I went to middle school, in the city of Lakewood. It's called Made for High School, and right there I had a lot of bad grades, and I thought I was being cool. I thought it was just about myself. You know, when I think it was like my eighth grade year, ending of my eighth grade year. That's when I really just because I always looked up. Well, I always looked up to my brother, my older brother. He's only older by like 11 months, and I always looked up to him, and I started seeing him like drinking, start to drink, smoke marijuana and stuff, and I wanted to be like him. I thought he was like my role model. So then in eighth grade, going to summer vacation, I remember he would like come home and he would have like marijuana on him. He would like try to stash it in his drawer, and then when he would leave, I'll sneak in. I'll grab his weed, and I'll grab his pipe, marijuana pipe, and I'll go outside. And smoke by myself when no one's around. And then it started off like that. I started doing things behind his back, and then he would eventually like people would tell him like, oh, Marcos, your brother Arnold, he's getting high with us. He's smoking weed. He wouldn't like it. He would try to tell me what to do, like, oh, you can't be doing that. But I would be like, like, who are you to tell me? You're doing the same thing. And then so we wouldn't at first we wouldn't interact together like getting high together. We wouldn't do things like that together. But eventually, just I guess we got used to it. We just started getting high together. You know, started drinking together, going out together to parties together. Um, and then eventually, since I had a lot of bad grades in school, when I got to high school, they had to remove me from regular high school and send me to continuation school in Bellflower, Somerset Continuation School, and that's where I began to hang out with a different crowd than usual. Not no more. I wasn't hanging out with people that were partying and stuff like that, but I was actually like hanging out with people that were like gang banging. So I wasn't. I never gang banged, but people that I was around would do that stuff. So then they started, showing me different kinds of drugs. And that's when I got introduced into crystal meth. And then I guess I fell in love with the feeling of being high. And I grew up obviously being big, a big person. Like a big body. So crystal meth would get me skinnier. So I guess I liked the feeling that I was getting skinnier. So I felt better doing it. It gave me more of a reason to do it. Because I've always felt like I was like left out. Like nobody liked me or something like that because of my weight. I was always insecure. I grew up insecure. And I guess it kind of takes you back to like not having a dad. To like show you. To encourage you. Like, oh, you're worthy. Who you are. How God made you. You're perfect. But I didn't have that. I didn't grow up with a dad to tell me that. My mom was always working, like I said. And actually, when I was little, actually, I didn't grow up as a Christian. Actually, I've heard I mention that. My mom was actually my whole family. They're all Catholic. So I was raised into Catholic, being a Catholic. But I kind of remember going to church, but I just remember falling asleep in church. So I don't really remember anything about it. I was baptized Catholic. They made me do. My mom had me do my first communion. My confirmation, but I don't really remember learning anything there or actually meeting God there. I didn't feel right being there. And if anything, I would sometimes like to my confirmation class. We had them in the nighttime during high school. I would show up like high or something, or drunk, to the classes, and so I didn't really get anything out of it. I didn't. So that's until I graduated. Thankfully, I graduated. God, through God's grace, somehow I was able to graduate. I was able to still do what I was doing, even though I was getting high. I was getting high of crystal meth. I was able to graduate at a continuation school, but I still did it. Got my high school diploma. But right after my high school, that's when I didn't want to work. I let the drug get a hold of me. I didn't want to work. My mom said, if you're not gonna work, you can't live here. And I was even stealing from my mom. I was taking from her rent money. I was doing all these bad things, even taking my little sister's birthday money. And so my mom got tired of it. So she closed the doors for me. So and I didn't want to get it together. So I just went into the streets. I was that's when I became homeless. Um, and I remember being homeless the first year, for like a couple months being homeless. My mom would still look for me every day, even though she didn't want me back, she still would look for me because, my mom just, she's been, always there for me. She's always backed me up for everything. She never gave up on me. And I remember one day she picked me up, and I was tired. Well, I felt like I was tired. She picked me up, and she told me about a rehab. And so I ended up just, like, okay, let's go, let's do it. And it was actually Victor Arias, but in the Spanish ministry, it was Alcance Victoria. So she took me. It was in Anaheim. I went there. I was there for like 2 months, probably. I felt I was actually I felt the presence of God there. I knew God was real. I've always believed God was real, but right there is where I really got a hold of God. I met God. He That's where they told me, you're saved. God can change you. God has a calling for you. That's where I began my prayer life right there. But I was still like on the edge of like thinking I had another run in me. So I remember at a job site, they sent me and like probably like three or two other brothers. And I guess it was a graduate that hired us, but he wasn't in the ministry no more. But he had graduated from that home. But he hired us, and I guess he was drinking there, and he was getting high there. So between me and another guy, we just like, all right, let's just try to convince him, just let us drink with him and get high with him. And we just kept on bugging him, like, "Hey, come on, let's let us, drink with you and get high with you." And then he ended up just giving in. I remember drinking with him and getting high with him for like 2 or 3 days at the job site. And I remember going back to the third day, going back, we had a night service. And I remember going back, and then I hadn't slept, and I was I don't know how I didn't get caught, but when I went to service, trying to pray, I felt like bad. I was like, man, how can I try to pray, when I'm under the influence, when I'm high? I felt like I was being real disrespectful. So I remember going back home to the home where we're at in Anaheim, laying there in the bed, and I was just like, I remember seeing it was like 11 in the night. I was like, nah, I can't be here no more. I need to go get another fix. So then I walked out. I walked out of the home, and I remember walking the whole night, going all the way. I took man, I think it took me the whole night walk all the way back to Bellflower where my mom lives. I remember my feet hurting. I was thirsty. I had no money. I didn't know which way to go. Actually, I didn't even know which way to go. I guess it was like my instincts or something, but I happened to go the right direction, and I felt like I wasn't gonna get there, but I ended up getting there. And I remember instead of going to my mom's house, the first thing I went to is one of my friends' house. Well, not my supposed friend, but and I remember asking him if he had any drugs or anything, and then I remember. Oh, actually, before that, I had found a bike on a random. I don't know which riverbed it was, but on my way from Anaheim to Buffalo, I found a bike, and I told my friend about that bike. I was like, hey, well, I mean, let's go trade this bike in for some drugs. And I remember we were looking all morning to go trade it, and finally we got some drugs, but somehow I think we didn't have a pipe or something, so I just gave up. I gave the drug to my friend, and I just snuck into my mom's house through the window. And then my mom coming home she came home from work in the night. She see me sleeping there, and she like, what's going on? Why are you here? But she speaks Spanish, but I'm translating English. And uh, I told her, a typical excuse that someone from the men's home would say, oh, they're being hypocrites, they're just taking my money. I'm working there for free. The pastor's just taking my money. But it was just an excuse, just to not get in trouble. And my mom, she didn't like the fact, she's been around, so she knows what's up. Like, she knows when I would lie and when I would tell the truth. So she knew something was up. So I remember being there for a week at my mom's house, sleeping there for like a week, not doing nothing, and then the last day of the week, I remember just getting up and just walking out, and then I walked out, and I went back to the streets, and then like they say, it's like it's better off not to meet God, because He'll spit you out, 7 times worse, and that's exactly what happened to me. I lost like five. After that, I lost like 5 years in the street. I went homeless for like 5 years. I don't even remember much of what I did throughout those years, but I just knew I was just I was getting worse. I was getting out, like I said, meth. I was drinking alcohol every day. I was stealing to get to be able to support my needs. I remember actually the last year before I came into the home, um, I started even smoking heroin, and that's when I knew, like, oh man, this is it. Like, I started getting even more depressed. I'll be scared in the night. Every night I'll fall asleep. Before I fall asleep, I'll start crying. Like, I'll be terrified because I'll say to myself, like, man, I'm gonna die. And I'm gonna go to hell. I'm not gonna see my family ever again. But I can't stop doing this. I can't stop getting high. And I would cry out to God, like, man, Lord, forgive me, because I've always, I wouldn't blame nobody else. I wouldn't say no excuse. I would blame myself. I'll tell God myself, like, I'm sorry, but I can't change. I don't see no, I can't, like, I'm too weak to change. This is it for me. Forgive me. Um, and God heard my cries. God heard my cries, but I think it took God was intentional. It took my brother to fall into the streets. Go homeless for like a month. I see my older brother. Like, we basically met up in the street. And it terrified me. Seeing him out in the streets. I had a lot of, like I said, I had a lot of problems with people in the streets. From what I would do. Steal and stuff like that, or whatever it was. And I had people that would look for me. Try to, like, hurt me and stuff, or kill me maybe. And I got paranoid. Like, I don't want those people that are looking for me to look for my brother. Find out that that's my brother, and they try to hurt him. And I remember knowing that there was a victory home in the city of Bellflower where I was, homeless at. I remember meeting Director Mario in the street. He would evangelize to me, like, come in the home, and I would tell him, nah, I'm good. I like what I'm doing out here. And but I told my brother about that home. Like, hey, there's a home down the street. Like, you should go and check it out. They'll help you out. They can help you. They'll get you off the streets. They'll get you a bed. You'll just have to probably go to work. But it's all good. And I don't think he liked the fact that I was telling him that. Because it took him a whole week to think about it, and I would remind him every day, and he would get mad at me. And but then one morning, he woke up, and he told me, "Okay, Arnold, like, just take me there, but before that, buy me a beer or something. Then I'll go to the home." And I was like, all right, I'll go do that. And then we drank the beer together. Then that's when I dropped him off at the home. And I remember they were doing his intake there. There was another brother right there who was just like evangelizing to me, like, "Oh, Arnold, you should stay too. Like, you're in the streets too, no?" And I was like, "Yeah, but I'm good." Like, I was still prideful. I still had an ego in me. Like, I thought, I felt like it was just my brother that needed the help instead of me. Both of us needing the help. So, like, nah, he needs the help. I don't need the help. I know what I'm doing out here, or I thought I knew what I was doing out here. And so he went in the home. I told my brother, don't worry, I'll go see you at the Sunday services. I'll go visit you, And I remember he was in the home. He was in there for a month, but every Sunday service, I would find a way, to, like, shower or something and have, like, nice clothes on. And I remember, like, riding my bike, because I would always ride my bike. I would ride my bike to the front of the church, and I'll be this close of, like, super close of walking into the church. But then, like, an anxiety would kick in, and I'll ride away. I wouldn't go inside the church, and I would just leave. And I'll be disappointed. I'm like, man, I'll get depressed. I'll be like, man, like, my brother's probably in there waiting for me. And I'm just, like, not putting my part. Like I said, I would go in there and to go visit him. Go see him. And I just, it was sad. It was sad, but that's, what the drugs do to you. They get a hold of you. The devil uses the drugs to get a hold of you. He, puts fear in you, puts doubt in you. And I was just, I was afraid to walk into a place where there was gonna be change in my life, and but eventually, from my brother being in the home for a month, I remember being in the street. I got in a discussion with some person that I knew. We ended up fighting. I ended up losing the fight. I remember getting a black eye. Somehow, I think I fell, like, against a wall or something, and then I opened the back of my head. So I was bleeding out from the back of my head, and I remember having an ice pack because one of my friends, she see me, and she gave me an ice pack, so she kind of cleaned me up. But I guess I was still leaking from the back of my head, and my brother, I guess he happened to like come out of work or come out of the church, with the men's home. They were driving on the van. They happened to turn on the street where they've never turned in. They never turned in since I've been in that home. We've never turned on that street, and for some reason they happened to turn on that street. They happened to see me. They pulled up on me, Uh, it was kind of funny because one of the guys jumped out of the van. He goes, "Oh, Arno, who did this to you?" And I told him like, "Oh yeah, this person." He goes, Do you know where he lives?" And I said, "Yeah, yeah." And he goes, "Oh, get in the van. We'll go look for him." But that was just an excuse for me to get in the van. So I jumped in the van. Instead of, I'll tell them like, "Turn right here. Make a right." And they just ignored the fact that I said make a right. They went straight. They took me to the home. And that's where Mario was at. And, he seen me still bleeding from the back of my head. "Oh, you can't bring him in here yet. Like take him to the hospital first." So then they took me to the hospital, to the Lakewood Regional, and they let my brother stay with me in the hospital. And I remember my brother, praying for me right there. He was worried for me. And they stitched me up, and then they picked me up after. They picked us both up in the nighttime, and then the car pulled up. A couple of the brothers that I already knew, they were like, "I'll get in the car," and then I remember being in the backseat of the car, and one of the brothers asking me like, "So Arnold, like, are you ready to give God a chance?" And I just remember, leaning my head back, closing my eyes, thinking about it like, man, I got nothing to lose anymore. I already lost a lot. And I just said, "Yeah, let's do it. I'm ready." And then they prayed me in. They took me to the home. The first thing I remember is seeing everybody there. A lot of people just welcoming me. You know, and I remember them offering me clothes because I had no clothes. Offered me a plate to eat, to shower, and I remember just going to sleep and then being in that. I was actually, it's a 3 days of grace, but I actually took a week. I took like a week off right there because I had a lot of migraines. I was going through withdrawals from alcohol and from the heroin, and but then I remember just one Saturday just waking up like, nah, I gotta get up already. And I remember walking into the sanctuary. I seen everybody praying there, and I just remember just breaking in the sanctuary, because I remember meeting God, and then I remember leaving Him, so it broke me, But ever since then, I stood in the home. I built a relation. I could say mainly like most of the time that I had encounters with God was in the men's home, was in that sanctuary in the house. Those were the places where I would break down. I'll see God. I'll be the one in the nighttime staying up right there praying. By myself. Thinking Him. Because He took me out of a place where I thought I would never be able to come out of. That's where I fell in love with God. And I stuck it out for a year. I remember finally graduating. I put on a lot of weight, but it was okay. And after the men's home, I was after I had graduated. My director he'd always insist like, "Hey Arnold, you should go to the UTC." And I remember when he would tell me that, I'd be like, "Oh man, the UTC, man, this I don't know." But I've always known that God wanted for me to do more. This and it wasn't just a men's home. And just go out and to go to work. Because from me being there, I seen a lot of people. Just go to the home, graduate, and just want to go to work, and then after just let the work get in between the relationship with God. And I didn't want that for me. I didn't want to be like a casualty. So I knew I had to go, and then just I wouldn't like it when they would tell me to go to the ETC because I knew it was the truth. That I know they wanted the best for me, but sometimes the truth hurts us. The truth is not what we want. But I said, okay, you know what, I'm down. Let's go. Let's do it. I remember Pastor Manuel asking us one day at I think it was like a men's discipleship or house fire. He goes, "Arnold, so where would you like to go?" And I was like, I think I want to go to I want to go to Chicago, the East Coast. He goes, "Oh yeah, that's good, man." And because I only had two options, either the East Coast or the West Coast, because I can't travel. And I'd rather go to somewhere where, far, where I've never been. I grew up in LA. that's all I knew. So I rather try something new, different culture, and then so within 2 months we had to raise up the money to get there. I remember going there. I went with one of the brothers that were in the home with together. We both went to Chicago, and I remember landing there. Well, we took the train there actually. We took the train there. Took us about 3 days. It was a cool adventure. We got there. It was freezing. They picked us up, and right there, it was something different for me. Because I thought in the home, I had got rid of all my like, you could say my anger or my pride. I thought that I had it all sold up already. Figured out. And then when we went to that place, to that campus, the Urban Training Center. That's where I began to notice, like, Arnold, you still have a lot to work with. God was showing me, like, I still, there's still a process going on with you, Arnold. And that's where I began to notice that I still had a lot of anger in me. I still had a lot of emotions to deal with. I had completely forgot how to socialize with people. There was gang girls there. That I didn't even know how to conversate with them because from being in the street for so long. When I was in the street, all I knew how to do was disrespect women. Not treat a woman right. So I knew God was being intentional because they were all like probably like 18, 19 year olds there, the girls. So they would all remind me of my little sister. And man, it would get under my skin when they would tell me what to do or something. Like, man, why am I getting mad? That they're just being obedient to what they're telling them. I wouldn't like it. I wouldn't like when someone younger would tell me what to do, or even a game warrior when they would tell me what to do and they was younger than me. I would get all angry about it. Like, man, God, you know what you're doing. And right there, I'm not gonna lie, it got harder for me to pray in the mornings. I would wake up super tired. I felt like there was like a different like a stronghold right there in the city of Chicago. I felt like it was just like it was depressing over there. I feel like I was alone, like I was far away from my family. That's where I began to notice, like, man, I should have took advantage of all the times when I was in California to, like, because in the men's home they'll let you do calls on Mondays, and I wouldn't take advantage of that. I would never call. So when I got to Chicago, I was like, man, I should have took all those calls, and called my mom. And now I'm far away from her. Now I can't even see her. And so God was just showing me, like, even though you're alone over there, I'm with you. Don't worry about it. I'm gonna be with you wherever. Just keep doing what just keep following me. Keep following me. And so I was still fight. Try to fight for my breakthroughs. I would in the mornings. I'll get into prayer. There was more time to pray. That we had an hour. There was time to read the Bible. There was nothing in the way right there. You're completely separated. You don't go to work. You're full time ministry there. They teach you how to work with people. Because all I knew was to work by myself. I never liked asking for help. And right there, it was a place where you had to work with somebody. So they teach you, how to work with people, how to delegate. I even learned how to cook right there. I didn't know how to cook really. In that place, I learned how to cook. They made me a KP captain. Um, so much. I grew so much right there. Um, Let me see. Sorry. So right there, they took us out to crusades. Actually, we went. I remember the first week of being there. Pastor Lopez was there actually, and he imparted into us. There was a meeting in the campus. City Church Chicago was there. The base church was there. They all gathered up. I didn't know what was going on, but I remember them telling me, shower up, go upstairs. Dress like with a button up. Dress nice. Have your dress shoes on. Bring out your Bible and your notebook, because Pastor Chucky's gonna be pulling up and he's gonna impart it to you guys. About what the base is about. So then I remember him, being right there talking about a team member. I was like, "What's a team member? What does that mean?" Or they'll talk about being a specialist, and I was like, "Man, I don't even know none of this." But that's when they begin to impart into us about that. That we, like a team member is basically like we're all leaders. We all are. Our voice matters. There's no wrong answer. You can share. What God puts in your heart. And if it works, they'll run with it. And so I remember after that went through. They told us like, okay, so the next week coming up, we're gonna go on a crusade with Pastor Chucky Lopez to Milwaukee, a 3-day revival. And then we went off to crusade. There was a prayer summit there. Man, that prayer summit was powerful, man. Man, God spoke to me real good right there. I remember breaking out the altars. It was just a beautiful encounter. Beautiful encounter with the Holy Spirit. Uh, we went evangelizing. When we were coming back, our director wasn't there yet because of his son. He was sick, but he finally came back. We finally met him. He's a nice person. Um, and then you could say the director there. He was sharpening me a lot. He always wanted everything on point. So I had to step up my game. Because I've always kind of been like a sloppy person. And right there, he would just push me like, "Oh, Arnold, you gotta do this. You gotta be on time. You gotta be a leader. You gotta see down the line. You got people following you. You gotta know when to tell people to turn. If not, you guys are gonna stumble. Be one step ahead. The urban training center was a place where you get sharpened. You build a relationship with him. That in that place, I can really say that that's where my character grew. Where God was able to work with my character, where He was able to just get closer to me. There was tough seasons there though. Like part of me being there, where I just felt like, what am I doing here? I've learned these things in the home already, but um but thanks to the training center, I was able to really just like focus more on God. Stay closer to God. Read the Word more, because in the home I got comfortable. I wouldn't read the Word, and right there was no excuse not to read the Word. There was no excuse to we paid there to be in the presence of God. So we had to get our money's worth, and it was worth it. And I remember actually going to Minneapolis to a crusade. We went to a crusade right there too. Man, we remember when we would go evangelize. Man, there would be people out there in the streets, in the bus stops, right there in the open. Man, just getting high, like if they were inside of a house, like it didn't matter. If people were passing by, kids were passing by. I remember the cops being around there, and they wouldn't even say nothing. Like it broke me, like it touched my heart, like, man, there's a lot of need out here, and it's a whole another world over there. The way I looked at it was like a bunch of cockroaches just bunched up together right there, and just lost, and I remember one rally. We had a rally there. We pulled up to some parking lot. I don't know exactly what streets, but there was it was like, it looked like it was like a gang infestation of people there, like. And remember, we showed up. We're like, a lot of us were kind of like paranoid, like, oh man, what's gonna happen? Are we gonna get? It's a bunch of Mexicans pulling up to a place where there's a lot of like black people, and we were just like, man, we're probably gonna get killed right here, robbed or something. And then remember, we just we started playing worship. We started walking up to people, asking people if they need prayer, if we can pray for them. And then we remember people would grab the microphone and would testify, or some people would perform, they would rap, and it was, at first it was kind of like nerve breaking, we just like, oh man, hopefully everything goes good. But I remember at the end of the night, everybody, the people that were, that were in the streets, we ended up all just at the end of the night just dancing everybody together. We just had a revival moment right there, and I knew that was the Holy Spirit. That took over. The Holy Spirit, just touched every person there. It didn't matter who it was, but everybody was just dancing right there. It was just something I've never seen. Like, wow, that was God. Only God was able to do that. He was able to push away the fear. Push away what the devil was trying to do, and just God just moved. I remember we led many people to Christ. we did the sinner's prayer there, and it was just a beautiful encounter, something I've never seen before. And man, it showed me a lot. That God is real. God can do so much. Um, and then I did my 6 months there on the training center, and then we came back. I just got back probably like 2 weeks ago, and right now I'm just in the victory home helping out whatever I can do. I'm in part to the young people. Tell them, encourage them to go to the training center. And there's just trying to, help out. Tell people about the love of God, and how it's just. I'm thankful for what God has done in my life, how He transformed my life. I'll never see myself here where I'm at now, but it was only God who was able to do that for me. Yeah, Amen.
Any final shout outs? Thank yous?
Yeah, I wanna thank God for Pastor Manuel and Sister Lisa, for this beautiful church, for for coming into the city of Bellflower. I know if they would have never showed up to Bellflower, I would have probably never, been where I'm at now. So I'm grateful for them that God, knew what He was doing. I want to thank God for Director Mario and Sister Brenda, because they took a chance with me. They took me in, and they showed me the ropes. And I know they come under the leadership of Pastor Manuel. So whatever Pastor Manuel would impart to Director Mario, he would share it to us. So I'm grateful for them, and I just thank God for my mom. My mom has always been there. She's always supported me, and my brother Marcos. God bless you guys. Amen.